I wasn't getting a lot of maples and or Britannias and stuff like that. I was getting a lot of like Perth mint stuff that's can be pretty pricey. And then if you take it to a coin shop, they're going to price it as if it were just a regular kangaroo, even if you paid a super high premium for it and super beautiful coin.
Hello and welcome back. Today we are joined by GG Bullion to discuss stacking. When stacking, we are taking our fiat currency that we have achieved over time and converting it to a safe haven asset. When purchasing precious metals, it is important to consider what you are buying carefully. We are going to look at silver coins, rounds, and bars, and we'll also be talking about gold, and we might even touch on platinum. Nothing in this video is financial advice. GG Bullion, welcome back. It's an honor to have you back on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me back on.
You bet, absolutely. When buying precious metals, it's important to remember this is not a get rich quick scheme, and it's something that you'll need to sit on for a long time in order to see the best results. Is that something that you would agree with in general?
Yeah, in general, yes. There come opportunities where you can make a lot of money in a really quick time, like short, it can happen, but you shouldn't expect it to. I think if you're going into especially physical metals with that mindset, you're probably in the wrong space. It's more of a store of value, a hedge against inflation, a savings account. There are ways to make money. Collector's coins. We can talk more about that, or numismatic coins. Uh, but in general, I would say, it's a long-term investment, and I've talked to quite a lot of people that are interested in stacking silver, gold, whatever. And that seems to be the hang up because it's like, well, I'm paying a premium on this, and then I have to wait for spot price to go up. So how long, that seems to be where most people get hung up because yes, silver and gold are an asset. Silver is like a very widely used industrial metal, but they're also money themselves. And I think, as stackers, over a certain amount of time, we start viewing it in kind of a more, what, at least in my opinion, a more correct way to view it in, um, is that it just is money, and spot price is not exactly the real price anyway, because premiums are a thing. And even when you sell, at least to the local coin shops around me, for silver at least, like you're going to get over spot when you sell, excuse me, unless the market's overly saturated. There's like quite a bit to unpack there, but I would say in general, yes, it is a long-term thing. Like you can, like if you happen to buy at the right time, like you bought all your silver right after the COVID shutdowns, and when it was 14 an ounce, and then whatever, a year and a half later it goes up to 30. Yeah, you could have made a lot of money really quickly. I wouldn't advise going all in when you don't know how the market's going to perform in the future, especially in the middle of something like that. I mean, I bought a good amount at that time, but I'd already been stacking. So there are opportunities like that, but probably not. That's probably not going to be when you are first getting into stacking that's going to be the case. I'm guessing
Yeah,
that's a very small minority of people. So in general, and for me anyway, it is just a long-term thing for retirement. For when I look at my stack, I'm aside from the stuff that I flip or my own hand pours, I'm thinking like 20 years down the line at least.
You know what he was saying about the spot price, that this is huge, guys, and this is really what has you cornered right after you buy them, because you're going to buy your metals at spot plus premium, and then before you can sell them and make a profit, the price is going to have to increase so that it breaches what you had paid. For example, bars, especially the larger bars, you're going to be paying a much closer price to spot. And so the silver price won't have to move as much in order for you to resell those and get all of your money back out of them. Now, something like a coin, the price is going to have to move more. Um, and this is going to vary a little from coin to coin, especially if you're looking at anything that's not 3 or 4 nines fine, or that's constitutional silver. All the other types of silver, if it's the sterling silver, the 0.925, or it's a 80% Canadian, or some of the 40% US coins, or even the war nickels, that price is going to have to move a lot more. Now, the only caveat I would throw in there in regards to that is that's not always necessarily the case in regards to private party sales. Sometimes you can get your money back out of them much quicker with the coins, but you're going to have to cut the local coin shops out of the equation, and you're going to have to sell that private party on your own. And for me, that's something that I do on eBay. I basically hardly ever sell any coins to coin shops. What I bring in there is I bring in rounds that I know I won't be able to get a high premium for on eBay, and bars. Um, Now, I might bring in some coins if I know that I can get a fair price at the LCS. A lot of times LCSs will pay over spot for Eagles, for example. For the most part, you're going to need to wait for quite a while. And like he was saying, sometimes you can get lucky if you buy it and then, 6 months later, there's a big price jump, that's great. But it is good to be ready to hold on to these for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would like to add about, since I guess we are kind of talking about the composition of one stack, like what is your stack made up of? I know we're just another point on coins and local coin shops is I would kind of advise anyone that if you're not willing to when you have an exit plan, um
Yes.
that's a big thing, because if you have no idea what you're going to do to sell when the time comes where you really want to sell and you don't have a plan in place, like am I going to do private sales? Like I do private sales, I do most of mine in person, so that's like and you said you do most of yours on eBay. I've never sold anything on eBay in my life. So that's like like I'm not familiar with eBay. I'm more familiar with weird. It still like involves the internet, but it's not like I don't even know how eBay works, to be quite honest with you. But I think that's like a very important thing. Like it's going to be a long-term thing, like you were saying. I guess we were both saying, but it's good to have that exit plan in place, like in like certain local coin shops. Like there's coin shops around me that will give you spot for pretty much everything. We'll give you under spot for anything that's less than 3 nines fine, or like under melt value for the silver. But then there's also coin shops around me that'll give you over spot for generic bars and rounds. Oh, like more than that over spot for things like Britannia's, silver Krugerrands, Philharmonics, stuff like that, as long as they're not spotted up. And we'll give you, right now I'd say probably $5 over spot. Well, right now maybe not five, but they'll give you more for Eagle. So not all coin shops are created equal when it comes to selling. There's certain ones that are better to buy from, and there's certain ones that are better to sell to. But it definitely helps to shop around when it comes to that, because you could take big bag of silver coins and bars and whatever, go to one coin shop or go to the other and come out the door selling it, making very significantly different amounts of money based on what premiums they're willing to sell, like to buy from you at. So that's something, because a lot of people have a shop, they go to one shop, and that's all they go to. I don't know. I like to call around. I feel like that's a smart thing to do. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
That is a smart thing to do. Absolutely.
Because there are, and you think that would kind of be a no-brainer. But the reason I say that is because I know people that they pretty much just go to the same place. They always buy from the same place. They if they sell, they plan to sell to that place. And it's like there's a bunch of other places in the area and they haven't even really looked into it, which on one hand is maybe fair enough. Okay, you trust those people. If you built up a relationship, maybe they'll give you a better deal. But at the same time, what if that place goes out of business? Then you have no relationships built up with anyone and you don't even know what else is out there. So I think that's just something important to keep in mind. Sorry if I'm like the king of going on tangents. So
Hey,
hopefully
hey,
that didn't bring us off track too much.
no sweat. That's really good things for especially new stackers to consider. And another thing that I would just add to that is if you're never going to different shops, it's going to be really hard to tell if you're really getting the best deal. Has being loyal to them, helped you? It's definitely good to kind of spread the love around, try out different people, and just feel it out really well. And in regards to the coins, I would say especially with the lower percentage silvers, like the 40% Kennedy halves or the 80% Canadian dollars. The amount of additional money that I can sell them for on eBay, I mean, it's like night and day. I can literally sell them for twice the amount on eBay that a coin shop will give me for them.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Even though this is more of a long-term wealth preservation asset, it's still important to consider the price that you buy it at and the price that you could potentially sell it at in the future. So when you're putting all of this together, you really need to kind of be thinking to yourself, like he was saying, an exit strategy. Are you going to be willing to do private party sales, to find a good form for yourself, or do you know that you're just going to go in and sell all of these at a coin shop and just try and bulk offload all your stuff? Um, Now, for me, I do think that that's something, if someone knows they're going to be doing something like that, they should probably just be looking at bars and like really cheap rounds. In my opinion, if they know that they're just going to try and bulk sell everything, because,
Mhm.
if you're going to get something like this, um, you're going to do much better in a private party sale with this 2 ounce coin right here than you will at a coin shop. And they'll buy it off you, of course, and then they're going to mark it up and sell it for what you would have sold it at if you sold it on eBay yourself.
Mhm.
But let me ask you about bars real quick. Um, Now, silver bars are oftentimes going to be the lowest premium silver you can find. Would you mind sharing with us what your opinion of silver bars is, and if you have any silver bars in your stack, and maybe even how much of your stack they make up?
So yes, I absolutely love silver bars. So silver bars, they're the bar version of silver rounds, I guess, or vice versa. Um, I don't, I actually have a quick question for you. 1 ounce bars back in the day, do you remember those costing less than rounds? Because I feel
Yeah,
like
the
I do,
yeah
and
the
now it's
one
like
ounce
flipped.
bars used to be really cheap. I'm not sure why that changed.
Yeah, because I've noticed that for me in private sales, it's easier to sell bars than it is rounds generally. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so well, when I first started stacking silver for the first, couple months, I would say 100, almost 100% of my stack was silver bars. Um, I do I do like 1 ounce silver bars, don't get me wrong. Put them in a bar tube or whatever. So, nice 1 ounce denominations, I guess. But as far as larger silver bars, which, you're either I guess there's two types of larger silver bars. One is far more common than the other. One would be like something like you are holding right now, just a 10-ounce bar or a kilo bar or even a 5-ounce bar, where it's easier to handle for the most part. Like if you have five 10-ounce I'm sorry, 5 10-ounce bars versus 50 1 ounce rounds or 1 ounce bars for that matter. It's just a lot easier to chuck them in a box, take them wherever. It's easier to transport your wealth around. um I think bars, I in a sense almost lump bars and rounds into a very similar category with larger bars, like 5 ounce bars or 10-ounce bars, or even kilo bars, 250 gram bars, any of the kind of bigger bars. It's a lot easier if, like, let's say for whatever reason I lose my job, it doesn't matter what it is, or it's just a really good time to sell. It's so much easier to throw a couple bigger bars into a bag and go and sell them than it is to dig through all my rounds, go through my whole stack, which of course is split up in different places. And it's like, oh, I don't want to sell this one because it's kind of, these are cool rounds. And look through that where it's just like, boom, I can just grab these. They're whatever, they're big generic bars. I can go sell them. So I think that's a big advantage to bars, at least bigger bars. I love 1 ounce bars as well. I mean, I love silvers, of course I do. Um and then, yeah, but I think that's a big advantage to it. It just, especially if you're planning on um selling to a coin shop or a metals dealer. But even with private sales, it's still pretty easy to do. People are always looking for good deals on silver bars. So if your price point is somewhere between premium, or I'm sorry, somewhere between spot and where the dealers are selling premium for, you're going to sell that pretty quickly. And it just takes a big mental load off of you where, yeah.
That's
So
a really good point. It is something that you wouldn't have to really think about too much. And for me, that the reason is I just don't fall in love with my bars as much as I do my coins and rounds. And so it's way easier for me, if I was in a situation where I wanted to offload some silver really quickly, grab a handful of 10 ounces or whatever and just go sell those. And
yeah,
I
yeah.
won't shed a tear over that, you know.
Yeah, it's much easier to go sell a 10-ounce whatever generic bar than it is to sell 10 ounces of these real cool rounds, even if they're not necessarily anything special. Like you said, there's certain rounds that I have that I just don't want to sell, which gets into the collector side of things. But that's a thing as well, because I kind of wanted to bring this up. Maybe we'll get into it more later, but I know when I first got into stacking, I started pretty much just buying bars because I didn't really want to get attached to it. And then, of course, I ended up getting attached to stuff anyway. I got higher premium bars like the Geiger bars, which I love, and you can sell those at a high premium, especially in private sales, especially if you have the old ones that they don't make anymore. Uh, so that is an advantage. Bars and rounds for especially new stackers. That's where I generally point people to, as long as they're buying from a reputable source. You can't really go wrong there.
I agree. If you're buying from a reputable source and you know you're getting the best deal you can on some bars or rounds, you really can't go wrong with that.
Mhm.
Um, you know, in regards to bars, I really think of them as a good anchor for anyone's stack. It can add a lot of weight to your stack at a low premium. Um, they're definitely something that I would prefer to sell in bulk personally.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not sure about you, but I would say for me at any given time, bars make up about 40 to 50% of my total silver stack.
Yeah, I let me think real quick about my whole stack because I do have my stack split up. Like I do not keep my whole stack where I live, which I guess is a good problem to have. Because it got to a point where it's like this is not a good idea. So storage it is a thing with precious metals, of course, but I would say right now bars probably make up, I'd say probably somewhere between 40 and 50% of my stack.
Okay, so yeah, we're about the same in regards to that. And also I'm the same as you. I got mine tripled. I have it in three different but yeah, I don't keep it all in one chunk either. You know, don't keep all your eggs in one basket is what they say. And I
Yeah.
think that that's something people should keep into consideration with their stacks for sure. So
Oh
I
yeah.
wanted, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, yeah, absolutely. Like, in the beginning, it's fine to keep everything at home, but once you have like a significant amount of money in it, you have to think like my house or my apartment complex could burn down. Like there's a lot of things that could happen. So
Right.
yeah,
And how
I
sad
have
would
it.
it be if all of your stuff melted, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's precious metals, as long as you have physical, have no counterparty risk except acts of God and theft, I suppose. So it's still good to hedge against that. And I like to have my stuff split up into four places. Um, and luckily I have, trusted family members. So if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, they're not just gone forever until somebody 300 years from now with a metal detector finds them. Um, but
Yes, that would be a bummer, yeah, if it wasn't one of your, you know, relatives that came across those.
yeah, it'd be a good day for that person. But
Oh yeah,
yeah,
the best day that would they make them decide that was the best investment they ever made in that metal detector.
yeah.
So I wanted to get your take on rounds. There's a
Mhm.
lot of really cool rounds out there, and oftentimes you can acquire them for lower premiums than coins. You know, how much or how do you feel about rounds in general, and how much of your stack would you say is rounds?
So I like rounds. I I would say I'm not. I used to be bigger into well, I kind of go back and forth on it because when bars were in general less expensive than rounds, I was obviously going heavier on the bars because I was just trying to get weight really. Now that rounds, if you have a Sunshine Mint 1 ounce bar and a Sunshine Mint 1 ounce round, the round is going to cost probably 50 cents less. So if I'm just stacking for weight, I'm going with the rounds. So rounds, I would say, mm, prob- probably like 20, between 20 and 30% of my stack, if I had to guess. Um, Now, I think rounds are probably the best option, except for maybe larger size bars that you can get really cheap. But if you're getting like, let's say, just say 1 ounce denomination, um, rounds are going to be basically the least expensive way or the lowest premium to acquire silver bullion, like, 3 9's fine, silver bullion. Um, and then I kind of have a different opinion when we get to gold versus silver when it comes to rounds. But with silver, at least, I think it's great. Uh, right now, I'm trying to get my amount of rounds up since that's like the cheapest way to acquire right now, just for weight. And there are a lot of cool rounds out there. I do have rounds that are higher premium, or relatively higher premium. I don't have too many, like what I would call like semi-numismatic or collectors rounds, uh, because in private sales, maybe, but at the same times in private sales, it usually, I don't know, for that, it seems like coins are kind of the better winner. So I feel like, if you find the right person that also wants those really cool rounds, then yeah, like for example, on your camera feed, one of those "Don't Tread on Me" rounds.
Yes.
I don't know if the ones I have are the same manufacturer, but I have some of those. I like those a lot, and those are very easy to sell for a decent premium in private sales. Just because if you're into stacking silver in the first place, you probably are into that kind of thing. People like it, but not every round is like that. So personally, I think that is the exact type of ones that I have, is what you're showing me. I don't know who makes them, but I have some of those.
Yeah, these in regards to the "Don't Tread on Me" rounds, there's a couple different companies that make them. This one that I'm holding right now, I actually got from Money Metals, and I do think it's a really cool design. Metals actually makes this one that I'm holding in my hand right now, and I really like the reference to the Boston Tea Party. I'm sure that those guys that did the Boston Tea Party would be ready to rebel against some of the taxes we're dealing with today. Of course, in the modern age, we've all become a bit soft, I'm sure, compared to the people back then. But the one thing I really like about these "Don't Tread on Me's," I do appreciate our right to bear arms, and so I do like that is also kind of reinforcing that. Um, Now,
Mm.
so some of the rounds, like this John Wick, it's going to carry a really high premium. So some of these rounds I would prefer to sell private party. In
Mm.
my case, that would be on eBay, because I know I'll get more than I would at the LCS. Another kind of cool thing about rounds is if you want to get a 2 ouncer, this is a 2 ounce round as opposed to a 2 ounce coin. This one's a 2 ounce coin. You can get a really good deal on a 2 ounce round, and it's just easier to see the art on them, and people do appreciate these. I do feel like the 2 ounce rounds, you can sell with a bit of a premium in a private party sale. But
Yeah.
usually, yeah, it's going to be the really cheap ones. It's going to be, kind of the most bang for your buck in regards to the rounds.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, even stuff like that, like the John Wick ones, which actually, those John Wick rounds and bars are actually really nicely made for their price, because they're not that crazy. I mean, they're more expensive than a Sunshine Mint, but they're not crazy. The round, I'll put it this way: the rounds that I don't buy, unless like somebody, unless I can get them for super cheap somehow, um, are the super expensive, like collectors rounds that are like, it's 1 ounce of silver for $60 or whatever. And you can go on AppMex, JM Bullion, SD Bullion, any of those sites, and you can see them. There's a lot of them out there, but the reason I don't buy them is because if I cannot find a private seller, then I'm kind of just stuck with it. I mean, if it's something really cool, I might want it just for my own collection. But as far as it being, I guess, an investment of sorts, um, I'm either stuck with it, or if I take it to an LCS, they're going to treat it like any other round. Now, they might turn around and mark it up, but either way, when you're selling to an LCS, they're pretty much going to treat it like any other round. So those are the only rounds I really steer away from.
Yeah, I think that that's great advice. Um, and as far
Yeah.
as it goes, like what you're thinking rounds would make up about 20 to 25% of your stack, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, something somewhere around there, I would say. I definitely have more bars than rounds, because it's not, I have 250-gram bars, I have 5-ounce bars, I have bigger bars, but I mean there are bigger rounds. I like you had mentioned about 2-ounce rounds. I've recently kind of gotten into those over the past only a couple years really, and I do like those a lot. But yeah, I for whatever reason, for multiple reasons, over the time that I've been stacking for the past 8 or 9 years or however long it's been, I've just put more capital into bars than into rounds. But it still does make up a pretty significant portion of my stack. It's I mean, it's still at least like a quarter of my stack, I would say.
Yeah, so I'm about the same. I'm probably about 20 to 25% of my stack is rounds. And I think what you've done is very smart to have, the bulkier stack be bars. Um,
Mm,
it's just something that, we're less emotionally attached to, and that's easy to offload in bulk if it's something you need to do quickly.
yeah.
And so that would bring us to coins. Now, you and I had previously discussed 90% constitutional silver. If you guys would like to check out that interview, I strongly encourage you to check it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe it's linked in the description or however YouTube works, or you can put up a little card.
yeah, I will link that in the description. I'll probably also have that as the pop-up in this video, so you guys could easily check out our first interview. Um, Now, I know that you do have an interest in constitutional silver. Um,
Mhm.
Now, would you share with the audience, just kind of in general, what would you say the benefits of having coins in your stack is?
So, just to clarify, when you say coins, you mean like bullion coins or just bullion coins and 90% constitutional, just coins in general, or
Yeah, that any coins, any government minted coins, and we could throw the 90 percenters in there for the sake of this conversation.
okay. So coins, I really like coins. Obviously, so stuff like Eagles, although the premiums on Eagles have in the recent past been crazy. Um, but I've also sold them at crazy premiums. So it goes both ways. But stuff like I've noticed in general, for both private sales and at an LCS, like you're going to get more for coins in general. Coins are going to net you like a higher profit, like even at an LCS, at least with the local coin shops around me. As long as the market conditions are right, they're going to be giving you, $3 over spot for Britannias or Maples or Kangaroos or any of that stuff, really. Probably right now, 4 over or 350 over for Eagles at a lot of the shops around here. Whereas you might only be getting 2 over for rounds. So if you hunt for good deals, it's just you're gonna make more money. At least that's been my experience. Now, when the markets are different, they might just say, yeah, it's not an eagle, so we're going to price it the same as rounds. That's a possibility too. So it depends on the time, but I think it's they're good to have. Now where when I first started getting into coins, I wouldn't necessarily call it a trap, but what I kind of fell into is getting a lot of semi-numismatic coins. Like I wasn't getting a lot of Maples and or Britannias and stuff like that. I was getting a lot of like Perth Mint stuff that's can be pretty pricey, and then if you take it to a coin shop, they're going to price it as if it were just a regular kangaroo, even if you paid a super high premium for it and super beautiful coin. Now the flip side of that is in private sales, excuse me, if you find the right people, um, you can make really good profits off of that. So coins, I almost feel like maybe we can get into numismatics later on. So because that's like a whole different subject. But I would say in general, like the basic sovereign coins, like Maples, Britannias, Eagles, those are the most recognizable coins. Like even somebody that doesn't really know much about silver, they trust it for the most part, unless they're a super suspicious person. A lot of those coins, like the Britannias especially, there's some security features on the Maples. There's the missing read. There are security features, but just because they're government minted, um, they're just more more trusted. I mean, I would be more in a private sale, more willing to trust a bunch of maple leaves than I would some round that I've never seen before, if that
Absolutely.
makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's same here. If I was buying coins in a environment where I was not, or any, I should say, if I was buying silver in an environment where I was not able to do any checks on it, I would have a lot more faith, in something like a Britannia where I could, change the angle of the light and see if the trident turns to a lock or not.
Mm,
Are the background waves moving? Like these are things you can check on your own on the spot, to give you that additional confidence. Um, and so, I think that those are really strong points in regards to the coins. If, God forbid, we're ever in a SHTF scenario, I think a lot of people are going to feel the same way that had just described. Um, and that's going to be true for the old constitutional silver too. That stuff is very rarely faked. If it's something where they can't test it, I mean, they're not going to know what's inside of this bar, and if they
mm,
don't know me, they don't know that I'm not trying to sell them a big hunk of copper that just has, some silver on the outside of it. But if
yeah.
it's, constitutional silver, they're going to have a lot more confidence in that. And so there's a huge benefit to coins in regards to that. Um, and what I would say in regards to the coin shops, um, with a lot of the coins, you could potentially get a fair deal from them. You'll probably make more in a private party sale if you wanted to take your
Mm,
time and do that. That of course is going to be a lot more time consuming. Now, in regards to the sterling silver coins, 80% silver, Canadian coins, and the 40% American coins, you'll do much better in a private party sale. I would,
oh yeah.
in fact, just recommend against taking sterling silver, Canadian silver, or 40% silver to a coin shop. I wouldn't even mess around with it. I would just go straight to private party sale.
Yeah, I agree with that because with the 90%, coin shops are reliably be going to be able to resell that, where 80% Canadian depends on the shop, but generally not. Even 40% stuff or sterling silver stuff, generally not, especially if you're bringing in sterling silver spoons or something. Those are going straight to the refinery, and the refineries are not even giving them milk. Uh, you know, because they're going to have to actually refine it because it's got copper and zinc and whatever else in it. Um, so yeah, I would not really bring those to a coin shop either. That's a private party sale. Maybe like the sterling silver spoons and flatware, but you really probably shouldn't be stacking that to begin with unless you're getting it for, I don't know, 80% under melt or something. I know I can go out and buy sterling silver spoons and stuff for 10 under melt today. But I don't.
Right. That's a really good point. In regards to like silverware, You guys, I really don't think that you should be buying that unless it's something that you're planning on leaving as generational wealth, leaving to your
Mm,
kids or something like that. Because over a long period of time, that those are going to increase in value. But it is something, you might occasionally see a coin shop here or there that has just like a couple sets of sterling silver available. But what he's saying is totally correct that, they're going to want to go sell that, for somebody to melt down. And the people that are going to melt it down aren't going to want to give the coin shop guys much for it. So they're not going to want to give you much for it. And in general, it's probably not something that's very good to stack.
mm. Yeah, and as far as coins go, I think I guess this all comes back to what people's plans are, because I think with you and I, our stacks are probably a little more diversified since we do private sales as well. But for somebody that doesn't do private sales, I would say, it's still a good idea to have these coins, because even at a coin shop, you're going to get, in most cases, you're going to make more money with, as long as you're not buying them for outrageous prices and the stars align, all of that. It's more recognizable. And yeah, if there is like any barter situation, and a lot of people start out thinking they're not going to want to do private sales, but then they end up doing private sales 10 years down the line, or whatever. Um, so I think in general, like I'm trying to think of how much of my stack is coins as a percentage. It's probably uh I'll say not including 90%, because I'm trying to do the math in my head. Uh Probably a little more than the rounds, but a little less than the bars, like somewhere between the two. Like I definitely have more coins than I have rounds
Yeah,
in in
that's
in ounces
interesting.
weight. Yeah.
And maybe what you hit the nail on the head. Maybe it is because we both do take part in private party sales as well. Our stacks are so similar. But yeah, I mean, my stack, it's probably, 30 to 35% coins, at any given time. Um, and so yeah, our stacks I might actually not be all that common. Although, folks, you might want to consider stacking in the manner that me and GG Bullion do, just because it gives you a lot of flexibility and you kind of got all your bases covered, if it's something that you're doing for generational wealth. um if your grandkids or something inherit your stack one day and it's a bunch of boring 10-ounce bars, they're not going to be too excited about that. But if there's some flavor in there, some coins and some rounds for them to look at and enjoy, it could definitely make that experience different for them. And if you ever do need to sell some along the way, you might be able to make a lot more money with it.
I guess kind of what I was getting at there is, if a person, obviously not financial advice, do your own research, everybody, evaluate your own position. But personally, if I were planning on just selling all of my stuff to an LCS when the time came, my stack would probably 75% bars
Yep.
and like 15% rounds, and then the rest everything else, just for diversity. Because I think at that even in that case, you're still going to want eagles, you're still going to want maples, you're still going to want stuff like that. But if you just plan to sell to an LCS, if that were me, it would be like the vast majority, probably close to 90%, would just be in bars and rounds.
Yeah, like the cheapest bars and rounds I could find. If I knew I was just gonna offload
Yes.
all of it in one shot, yeah, it would all just be the cheapest bars and rounds I could find. Um, and
Mm,
I might even be, getting stuff that I don't even care for its appearance at that point.
yes.
If they had a really cheap deal on some stuff with scratches or, kind of an ugly design that some small mint came out with, or yeah, I'd be throwing all that in that kind of stack because the coin shops, they're really not gonna they're not going to take care of you, like private party sales will. So I also wanted to ask you about gold. Um, and, how much of someone's stack would you say should be gold, and what are the benefits of someone having gold in their stack?
So gold, I think, is an interesting one as to like if I were giving, if I were helping a good friend out and they asked me that question or whatever. So let's just say you're asking me the question, not financial advice again, but um, it seems to me that because like silver is a more volatile market than gold. So gold has what like 10 times the market capitalization of gold. Gold is not you it, Gold's more monetary than industrial. It's just
Mm-hmm.
less volatile.
Oh
So
yeah.
I would say almost as a like if you look at it as a percentage of your stack, like how much silver, like should I have half silver, half gold, whatever. Um, I think it has a lot to do with what age you are when you plan on retiring. Like if you're in your mid 20s, I think you should go way harder on silver. But if you're 65, like, and you're going to be retiring in 5 years or whatever the case may be, I would go way harder on gold, if that makes sense. Like, you
It
kind of get what
definitely
I'm
does.
saying. I think age and how long you're going to be accumulating wealth, because ultimately the big thing with this stuff is a safe haven asset, a storage of wealth. uh where when you're young with silver, uh you you can deal with that volatility. If you're going to be retiring in 5 years, then maybe you can't, and then you don't want to be holding the bag until you're 80 years old, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, really, really good point. Because I mean, the silver is such a small market. Of course, it gets kicked around a lot by the banksters, and there's no guarantees. I mean, silver really throughout its history has only had two like really big spikes. I guess, maybe you could say three. Whereas
Mm.
gold is just going to gradually, keep trending up over time. It's a lot harder for them to kick it around with the paper markets. It's a much safer bet. Now, what he's saying about volatility is so true, though. I mean, silver has way more upside potential, and if you're a young person and you have the time to be patient, at some point it's probably going to spike, and you could
Mhm.
do pretty well when you're offloading. I mean, for me, as far as mine goes right now, because of how inexpensive silver is, for us today, I'm a lot heavier on silver. I probably got about 1 ounce of gold for every 50 ounces of silver. Um, and I sometimes I feel like I probably should be a little heavier on gold, but I am kind of hedging my bets that I'm going to be able to capitalize on the next silver spike.
I have the same feeling where it's like, I should go heavier in on gold, but I think that I'm going to have yeah, like you said, like when silver has that spike, to be able to capitalize on that and then turn it around and lock it into gold. I would say, let me do some quick math in my head. I would say for every one, my ratio of gold to silver is probably like 1 to 15. I would say something like that.
I do think it's
Okay.
a safer store of value as a safe haven asset.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You don't, like you said, you don't have that the same upside potential, but you don't have as much risk. Um, so age plays a part in it, but it also is like how much risk do you want to expose yourself to? How much do you care about getting those big gains when silver inevitably does spike, assuming you're not in the end stages of your life, or near that. um, but for gold, and gold is very, like, it's a much different market than silver as well, like when it comes to how, like with silver for example, like all these things we've talked about, like coins and bars and different types of coins, you're going to get different prices, at least at local coin shops. Now, this is different than uh, with silver, where silver, if you have a coin versus a bar. You're going to be able to sell those to a coin shop for generally for different prices. What I've noticed with gold bullion, with gold coins and gold bars, is that if you have a gold coin and a gold bar, even if they're the same weight, they're going to give you the same price for that. So that's something definitely to think about in private sales. It seems like gold coins are much more trusted, especially because of the tungsten and counterfeiting and all of that. There's issues with gold, which is always make sure your stuff's real. Gold is definitely, mm, in private sales, people prefer coins. I've definitely noticed that. But coin shops, if you're selling to a coin shop, I would just make sure your bars are good, buy from a good dealer, and go with bars, because you're paying this extra premium for the coins. And if you're not going to be doing that in a private sale, it's better to buy the bars, and because you're going to be selling them to a coin shop for the same price, basically.
That's a really good point. If you're gonna pay a premium for a coin and then you're gonna end up going and offloading that at a coin shop, you're gonna have to wait for quite a while, for that to be profitable for you. And in regards to the premiums, typically what they say is if something like this quarter ounce Holy Land Mint coin, the premiums are going to go down at a quarter of an ounce. And what I've noticed is once you get to the 10-gram bars like this one, this is about a third of an ounce. The premiums do take another drop off. A lot of times you've already hit the lowest premium you can with just the 10 grams. That's not always the case, but sometimes you'll see these with a really good premium and you're not having to get a whole ounce at once with those. So it's definitely something I encourage people to keep in mind. Um, so yeah, man, thank you so much for your thoughts on gold.
Mhm.
Really appreciate it. And I hope all the new stackers out there and, maybe even some of the seasoned stackers learned something from your comments in regards to that. Now, I did want to ask you about platinum. Platinum is something that I haven't been stacking. Doesn't mean that I won't in the future, but it's not something that I've gotten into yet. Do
Mm.
you stack platinum? And how much of your stack would you say is made up of platinum?
So I do stack platinum. It is, I definitely have more platinum bars than I do have platinum coins, although I do have some platinum coins, and they are very easy to sell in private sales for the right price. But the main reason now, I don't have a lot of platinum compared to silver and gold. The proportion of my stack that is platinum is pretty small. And I used to have palladium. I don't anymore. I liquidated when the price went crazy. But platinum just seems very undervalued to me. And I could go on a whole spiel about industry and geopolitics and where it's mined. I will spare everyone that. And I just think that there is a potential for platinum. I think platinum is very undervalued right now, especially if you look at what's happening in the palladium market and industrial uses. Um, that personally, for me, I think it's a good idea to at least have a little bit, which, all things considered, I don't have a whole lot. I have, a little bit, so that if it shoots up super high, which it might, it's platinum's very volatile. Again, it's got only like a 200 something billion-dollar market cap. Um, and it's almost all of it is used in either industrial use or jewelry. So it's one of those things where it's just like, I want to have some. So if my theory is right and it does shoot up super high and goes crazy above gold, then I can cash in and put it into a safer asset like silver or gold, or I could buy something, whatever I want to do with the capital gains there. So that's kind of why I stack platinum in a nutshell. But I don't have a whole lot of it. I'd say I probably have maybe a quarter, if that, uh, of the value of the gold I have, if that makes sense. I don't have a ton of it. It's just something for extra diversification, really.
Well, yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. And that's definitely some good stuff for folks to consider. And who knows, maybe you just converted a couple people to add some platinum to their stacks. And the one other thing I wanted to ask you about is do you do much with numismatics? Is that something you keep in your stack? And what would you recommend to folks if they do have numismatics as far as when it's time to sell those? Is that something that they should be doing private party or coin shop, or maybe that's something that would even be better for like legacy, like giving to your offspring kind of.
So I do have numismatics. As far as when we're talking about graded slab stuffs, I don't have very much of that at all. I think I have a handful of slab graded coins. So I'm not super big on those unless it's something that catches my eye. And half of that stuff, like I know one of them is definitely going to be like a family heirloom type thing.
Okay.
Um, Now, as far as other stuff, like I'm big on Perth Mint stuff, like the Lunar series, which some people call numismatic, some people call it semi-numismatic, and I guess I'll just call them collectors, silver and gold coins. Now, some of that is stuff that I'm like never gonna sell. It's gonna be passed down to family, essentially. I know what those pieces are, but most of those are not graded. I've flipped a lot of them. That's something that if you're going into, I would not be taking it to a coin shop because they're going to price it the same as they would a maple leaf, even if you have some super rare Royal Canadian Mint thing, or if you have a limited mintage, doesn't matter what it is, they're still going to price it the same as a regular kangaroo coin for this lunar stuff for the most part. Maybe they'll give you an extra dollar, but when you're paying that big of a premium, um, it's something that you want to do in private sales. And I've been able to do very well with it in private sales, but you got to know, and not every coin is a winner too. That's something. So I wouldn't throw all my eggs in one basket, being like, oh, I'm going to get all these lunar dragons. And then down the line, nobody wants to buy them. And then I'm left holding the bag. Ultimately, yeah, they are silver, but I paid a good premium for them. So I diversify with the Lunar Series stuff. And some of those coins, I've been able to sell for like 5 times what I paid for them. So
Nice. That's really
yeah,
good.
but that's something that you got to seek people out. It's some work to sell it. Maybe eBay, or local kind of trading groups. There's a lot of those on Facebook or whatever that I use that are pretty easy to sell silver, or just networking. That's a big thing in that collector's coin market, is just networking with either people you meet at coin shops or other stackers, people you know online that happen to really like the series that you're collecting, and then it makes it much easier. So, but it all depends on the coin. That's something I would say for people that are like, well, maybe I'll do private sales for some of my stuff, but ultimately I want to sell most of it to a coin shop. I would say probably stay away from that unless it's something that you're just buying to collect for your own enjoyment, or you plan to pass it on to family, or something like that.
Well, I think that sounds like really good advice. Well, I have a feeling a lot of people learned from what you shared with us today. I definitely appreciate you sharing our thoughts. I learned some things as well. Um, and I'd like to say thank you so much for joining me And I do hope that we can do this again in the future.
Yeah, I would love to. And I'm gonna start doing probably next month sometime some longer form content on my channel, which maybe you can link in the description or whatever. Um, so I would love to have you on mine when I start doing that as well. So, but yeah, I'd love to be
Dude,
on pretty much anytime.
it would be my honor to come join you on your channel. I'll definitely leave a link in the description. And everybody, he is going to be doing a giveaway. So get over to his channel, subscribe, because the odds of being the winner of that giveaway are going to be pretty high.
Oh
Just
yeah.
like my first giveaways that I've done on my channel. And so, yeah, I encourage you to check out GG Bullion stuff and get subscribed.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me on. I love doing this. So,
You bet. Well, hey, thanks again. And I look forward to speaking with you next time.
all right. Thank you very much.